starting off this midday with some breaking news. The County District Attorney is going to seek a death sentence for the accused Facebook Live killer. Jonathan Robinson is accused of killing his ex-girlfriend, Rannita Williams, back in April. It happened inside Williams' house there and it played out on Facebook Live stream. DA James Stewart says there are aggravating circumstances that make it a capital case, breaking into the victim's home and shooting at police officers who surrounded that home. Robinson will be arraigned next month.
Everybody wanna be famous, Jonathan Robinson said. I'm gonna make you famous. The phone camera stayed fixed as Rannita Williams sat in her own living room, trembling. Her voice broke as she tried to speak. Yes, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have gone off like that. Behind her, Robinson paced with a long gun in his hands. His shadow cut across the wall. You think I'm worried about the police right now, he sneered. I don't care about no police. Reanita looked up at him, her voice barely steady. Stop, Jonathan. Seconds later, shots echoed through the live stream. The phone dropped to the floor. The screen went black. Thousands had just watched a mother of 3 take her final breaths online. But this wasn't just a sudden act of rage. It was the violent end to a story that had been building for years, a story of control, obsession, and a love triangle that turned deadly. And what happened inside that Shreveport home on April 12, 2018, was only the final chapter.
Women are the winners.
I ain't gonna say all men and women. I'm gonna say me and my winning though.
Okay, well 10 dudes winning. Okay.
Like a mother.
Let them tell it.
Yeah, we winning.
Yeah, let y'all tell it.
We don't know how to lose. We don't even take losses good. And nothing. I mean that, nothing.
But anyway, y'all know what it here for, women. We already know what it here for.
What?
Okay. Nothing. What?
Exactly.
To
nothing.
be unsaid.
Nothing.
To be on top.
Exactly, nothing.
To be on top.
What you got to tend to? You done. Game f***ing over.
Rannita, NuNu, Williams had been only 27 years old, and she was already a mother of 3 children who adored her. She lived in Shreveport, Louisiana, and balanced her days between raising her kids and building a name for herself as a talented home decorator and hair stylist. People in her community often said that if you wanted your house styled with flair or your hair done with care, you went to NuNu, because she had a reputation for being both creative and dependable. Social media had become NuNu's stage. She didn't hold back from sharing her thoughts online, and she wasn't afraid of calling people out, even if it stirred arguments. But her boldness was not just noise, it was part of who she was. She wanted to live authentically, and she wanted her voice to be heard. So while some people saw her posts as playful or provocative, others saw them as an extension of her real-life courage. Because NuNu didn't whisper, she spoke her truth loudly. And yet this very openness, the same quality that made her relatable to friends and followers, also drew her into conflicts. By 2018, she had been caught in a storm of words with her ex-boyfriend's new partner, and the feud spilled onto Facebook. But before that would turn deadly, NuNu had already posted something that unsettled those close to her. On April 7, 2018, just 5 days before her death, she typed out a haunting status. At my funeral, it will be ID strictly enforced and checked, because some of y'all coming to make sure I'm really dead. At first, it read like sarcasm. People laughed, some scrolled past, and others reacted with emojis, because NuNu had a way of mixing humor with sharp edges. But looking back, that post became chilling because it read less like a joke and more like a prediction. It was almost as if she had sensed the danger circling her. And the man behind all this is Jonathan Robinson. Jonathan Robinson's name was already familiar to police long before the events of April 2018, because his criminal history stretched back nearly 2 decades. He was first arrested in the year 2000 for robbery when he was only 18 years old. He pled guilty and received a 3-year prison sentence, but he served just 2 years before being released on parole. And instead of turning his life around, he returned to the streets and quickly picked up new charges. In 2003, a drive-by shooting left a man wounded in the leg, and Robinson was accused of pulling the trigger. But the case collapsed in court because prosecutors described the evidence as weak and the witnesses as unreliable, so the charges were dismissed. Then, only 8 months later, another man was shot in the leg, and this time Robinson was arrested again. The victim had a long-running dispute with him, and rather than face the possibility of a heavier sentence, Robinson struck a plea bargain and pled to a lesser charge of battery. He served 7 years in prison for that crime. When he came out, his rap sheet grew even longer. He picked up drug charges, but those were dismissed for lack of evidence. He faced another robbery accusation, but prosecutors dropped it after deciding the victim's account didn't hold up. And between those felony cases, his record was filled with smaller offenses, ranging from traffic violations to being drunk in public. So on paper, Robinson looked like a man who had spent years in and out of courtrooms and correctional facilities, and yet he was still free and back in the community. But the pattern that mattered most wasn't only the shootings or robberies, because Robinson's violence also showed up in his relationships. In May of 2015, police reports described how he rammed his longtime girlfriend's car while she was driving, then followed her to the home they shared on Arlington Avenue. Witnesses called the police, and when officers arrived, they saw Robinson beating the woman inside. She screamed for help until officers forced their way in, and Robinson used her as a human shield while shouting that he was armed. He was eventually subdued with tasers. Robinson pled guilty to misdemeanor domestic abuse battery, while more serious charges like false imprisonment were dropped. He received probation, but when he assaulted the same woman again only months later, his probation was revoked and he served a 60-day jail sentence. This same pattern repeated again in 2017, when Rannita Williams told police that Robinson had grabbed her by the throat while she was sitting in a vehicle. Officers noted the red marks on her neck, but by the time they arrived, Reanita didn't want to press charges. So the case was closed without an arrest, and Robinson walked free once again. And investigators would later point out that this unwillingness or inability of victims to follow through on charges often kept him from facing the full consequences of his violence. Yet for people who met him outside of those incidents, Robinson could appear different. He was charismatic at first glance, able to talk his way into people's trust, and he could present himself as a supportive partner. When he and Reanita began their relationship, many of her friends and even her family saw him as a father figure for her children. He played the role of protector, and at least on the surface, he offered stability. But behind closed doors, the control and the temper soon became clear. And while Robinson maintained ties with Reanita, he also kept a separate relationship with another woman, Shreveport Taylor, who was often referred to as his main girlfriend. Shreveport had been with him for years and tolerated the turbulence that came with being in his life. She even defended him on social media, painting their relationship as strong and unbreakable. At times, she posted about their love in almost storybook terms, likening them to Bonnie and Clyde. She saw herself as the future Mrs. Robinson and proudly showed off the tattoo of his name on her body. So what developed was a twisted triangle. Jonathan was moving back and forth between Reanita and Shreveport, and both women knew about each other. In fact, they even interacted online, sometimes directly, sometimes through posts that everyone knew were meant for the other. It was messy, but Jonathan fed off the attention and the control it gave him. He positioned himself at the center of the chaos, allowing the conflict between the two women to escalate while he moved between them. So, by the fall of 2017, Rannita Williams had finally decided to walk away from Jonathan Robinson. She had tolerated his temper and his controlling ways long enough, and when she discovered the full extent of his relationship with another woman, Shreveport Taylor, she ended it. And while breakups often mark a clean break, this one didn't, because Jonathan had no intention of letting go quietly. Rannita tried to move forward. She began seeing someone new, and for a brief moment it looked as though she was ready to rebuild her life without Robinson's presence, but he would not allow it. In February of 2018, he tracked her down at a local club in Shreveport, confronted her, and attacked her. It was not the first time he had shown aggression, and it would not be the last. Yet, just as before, Rannita chose not to press charges, and her reason was consistent with many of his past cases. She didn't want to see him pile up more felonies, and part of her still hoped avoiding court would prevent the situation from escalating further. However, that decision left him free, and his behavior only grew worse. Then came March 2018, when the fragile triangle between Jonathan, Rannita, and Shreveport exploded onto social media. Both women were outspoken, and both knew about each other, so what might have been kept private became a very public spectacle. Rannita mocked Shreveport openly, calling her a senior citizen, ridiculing her age, and hinting that Jonathan's love life was little more than a joke. And while the insults may have seemed like online banter to outsiders, to Jonathan and Shreveport, it was deeply humiliating. Jonathan demanded that Rannita stop posting. He told her to keep their personal business off Facebook, but she refused. She was never one to stay silent, and instead, she doubled down. She continued going live, continued making posts, and continued mocking both Jonathan and Shreveport for the world to see. And in an era where online reputation could be bruised in an instant, Jonathan felt the sting of public embarrassment. And soon, he would decide that the only way to silence Rannita's voice was to take it away forever. On the morning of April 12, 2018, Jonathan Robinson armed himself with a semi-automatic rifle and drove back into Shreveport. He had already made up his mind about what he intended to do, and by the time he arrived at Natalie Street, where Rannita Williams lived, the decision had already been sealed. He kicked in the door and stormed into the home. Inside were Rannita, her mother Reanita, and her younger brother. Robinson wasted no time showing the power he held in his hands. He raised the gun and fired a shot dangerously close to Anita's head, forcing her to flee. She managed to escape through the door and ran to a neighbor's house to call 911. Her son, startled and terrified, hid inside a closet until Robinson eventually discovered him. But in the chaos, the brother managed to slip away as well. That left Reanita alone with her ex-boyfriend, trapped in her own home. And this was when Robinson made his demand. He told her she was going to go live on Facebook, and she was going to apologize publicly to his girlfriend, Shreveport Taylor. He forced her to pick up her phone and begin streaming. So, for thousands of people online, the nightmare began to unfold in real time. Reanita sat there, frightened but trying to follow instructions, her voice trembling as she spoke.
You think I'm worried about the police right now?
No.
I keep telling you, I don't give a fuck about no police, you heard?
Mm-hmm.
Bitch, playing with me. Bitch, will pull up right now. Pull up.
Okay.
Pull up. Pull up.
Uh-huh. No, it was just, I apologize.
What's up?
Because I couldn't go live on my phone. My page is blocked.
Bitch wanna be famous, I'm gonna make them famous.
No.
Wanna be famous, I'm gonna make you famous.
No.
No. Everybody wanna be famous, let's be famous today.
Okay.
Huh? I do.
Yes.
He's telling you I get on these bitches level.
No.
Go.
Stop, Jonathan. Stop, Jonathan.
Now, game over.
The phone tumbled, the live stream ended, and the screen went black. Thousands of people had just watched a woman's final moments play out live. By then, police units had already surrounded the house. What should have been a rescue turned into a 90-minute armed standoff. Robinson fired repeatedly at officers outside, unleashing a barrage of shots that struck one of them, Officer Robert Entrekin, in the wrist. Entrekin survived, but it was clear Robinson was willing to take on anyone who approached. For nearly an hour and a half, officers negotiated, while neighbors crouched in their homes listening to the gunfire echo down the block. At several points, Robinson shouted out threats, insisting he didn't care about the police, daring them to come inside. And yet, with each passing minute, he was burning through his ammunition and his options. What finally broke the stalemate wasn't the SWAT team or the negotiators. It was a phone call from the very person at the center of the feud, Rannita Taylor. She convinced Robinson to surrender. She told him to put down the gun and walk out, and against all expectations, he listened. Robinson stepped out of the house and was taken into custody, but by then it was too late. Inside, officers found the body of Rannita Williams. She had been hit multiple times. The mother of 3 who had gone live only minutes earlier was gone, and her children would never see her again.
And right now, an accused killer is behind bars in Shreveport after a shooting during a standoff. He is also accused of shooting a police officer who is recovering from a gunshot wound. KSLA News 12's Jeff Farrow breaks down a chain of events during a very long and, for some, emotional day.
A tragedy unfolded in Shreveport's Caddo Heights neighborhood when police say an alleged gunman, 36-year-old Jonathan Robinson, fatally shot a woman reportedly being held against her will inside a house on Natalie Street. Authorities say Robinson allegedly shot a Shreveport police officer in the wrist as well before being taken into custody.
It was more than 10. It was 10 at first. They started shooting back at each other. It was ongoing, so it was about anywhere from 20 to 30 shots.
Medics took both victims to University Health Hospital, where Caddo coroner vehicles soon arrived for the woman. As for Jonathan Robinson, officers first took him to the Shreveport City Jail. That's when they say he damaged a water pipe, causing the cell to flood with water. After that disruption, police moved him to the Caddo Correctional Center.
I'm at the house. I'm at the house.
People could be seen running away from the perimeter of the scene several times during the standoff after either hearing shots fired or a loud boom. An electrician had been on a ladder outside a house when the standoff began next door.
When I got down on the ladder, I walked around to the front, and the police told me to get back in the house and lay down. And because it was an active shooting. And I laid there for about 30 minutes, and I kept hearing gunshots go on while I was laying down there.
Calvin Thomas says police soon got him out safely before the standoff had ended. Others grew increasingly impatient as they waited for the scene to clear to check on loved ones nearby. Luckily, no bystanders were injured in the ordeal.
After Jonathan Robinson was taken into custody, detectives sat him down in the interrogation room. And unlike many suspects who deny or evade, Robinson spoke freely. His tone was calm, almost detached, and he described what happened as though he had already accepted the outcome. From the very beginning, he admitted that his purpose that day had been murder. He told investigators that when he woke up that morning, he already knew what he was going to do. In his own words, "I knew what I was going to do when I woke up that morning." He explained that he had grown tired of what he saw as humiliation directed at his girlfriend, Rannita Taylor, and he framed his actions as a way of protecting her. Robinson told detectives that he had confronted Reanita because of her constant posts online. He said, "I asked her why she kept doing it. She wouldn't stop." Then, in a chilling justification, he added, the only way Rannita was going to be okay was if Reanita was out of the way. Detectives pressed him for details, and Robinson laid them out step by step. He said he had gone to buy ammunition that morning, picking up 2 boxes, 40 rounds in total, because he expected not just to kill Reanita, but also to provoke a shootout with police. He explained how the gun had been hidden under a house for years and how he retrieved it just hours before he drove to Natalie Street. He made it clear this was not an impulsive decision. It had been planned, and it had been deliberate. The officers also asked him about the standoff. Robinson admitted that he had fired at police on purpose. He told them in a blunt statement, "I was going to kill her. I wanted the police to kill me too." For him, that day was meant to be final. He had intended not just to end Reanita's life but his own as well, either by suicide by cop or by exhaustion in a hail of bullets. Robinson went on to say that he had seen the officers outside, noticed one by a red truck, and opened fire. He acknowledged hitting Officer Robert Entrekin in the wrist, and he described how he shot through windows and doors without even aiming, just unleashing rounds at the perimeter. His focus, he said, had been divided between shooting at police and making sure Reanita would not survive. And yet, despite the ferocity of the standoff, he eventually surrendered. He told investigators that he had run low on ammunition and that he listened when Shurika told him to give up. But his surrender did not erase the reality of his actions or the deliberate nature of his choices that morning.
You are hereby under arrest for your part in the offense of second-degree murder. I hereby notify you have the right to remain silent. You are not required to make any statement unless you want to do so voluntarily. Anything you say shall be used against you in a court of law. You also have the right to consult with your attorney and have them present with you. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to represent you. While you are not required to make a statement, you may waive those rights as explained to you, and you are given the privilege of saying anything you want to about this case. Now, with this understanding, waiving those rights explained to you, do you wish to make a statement to how this happened? You do?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think I need to be charged with first degree.
Why?
Because I planned it. I knew what I was going to do.
All right. We'll just start from the beginning.
It's like, you know, when you just say your wife, you know your wife not strong. And you know people mess with your wife because they know she's not mentally stable. But still, there ain't no excuse for what I did, but I done hurt her so much, and I just got tired of people hurting her. She going through mental stages, and it's like, and everybody laughing at her. And I got tired of it. I told them nobody won't laugh at you no more. I'm tired of hurting her. And ain't no excuse for what I did. I hate it, but man, I'm supposed to protect her. I'm supposed to protect her. That's my job, protect her.
Tell me what you mean by that, though.
Okay, man, the girl, we have dealings. But it's like a person know, if you know what putting buttons and make them go over the edge and make them be suicidal and stuff, and you still do it, it's like you have no regard for her life. You know she'll go, you know she'll take all these drugs, you know she'll take all these pills and kill herself, and you want to go on social media and bash her, make her look bad, and just, I told her I'd never let nobody hurt her like that no more. I told her, no more.
What happened today?
I asked her, why is you keep doing it? I asked her, I texted her, I called her, why? Stop. She wouldn't stop. I told my girl, I said, I'm going to tell her, I'm going to take care of her for you because she hurt you. And I hurt you, but she daddy won't let up and stop messing with you.
But what happened though?
I shot her.
Okay, so you get to the house, what happens?
I asked her why you steady messing with her. And I told her to go live and tell her, I told her apologize to her.
Apologize to who?
My girl.
Okay.
I told her apologize to her. You always want to cry on the audience. You always want to famous now. Famous. Tell everybody you sorry. Stop with her.
And what'd she say?
She started apologizing.
And then what happened?
Just what? Wait a minute. She was apologizing, you know. The police came. I don't know. I don't know if they were trying to sneak up on me or what. I just seen them by a truck, a red truck, and we started shooting. And it's like, I started shooting. Then I shot her in the leg. I shot her in the leg. Then I shot her again somewhere else. I can't really remember. I just know. I don't. I know, but I can't just. I know when the police, I seen the police by a red truck, I shot at them, and I turned around and shot her.
After Jonathan Robinson's arrest, prosecutors wasted little time bringing charges. He was indicted for first-degree murder in the death of Rannita Williams and 7 counts of attempted first-degree murder for the officers he fired upon during the 90-minute standoff. And because Officer Robert Entrekin had been injured by a bullet to the wrist, the charges carried serious weight from the very beginning. At first, the district attorney's office considered pursuing the death penalty. The case was high-profile, the evidence was overwhelming, and Robinson had confessed in detail. And yet, the decision was not as straightforward as it might have seemed. Prosecutors met with Rannita's family, and her mother Anita made it clear that she did not want the state to pursue execution. She believed that killing Robinson would not bring her daughter back, and she wanted closure without another life being taken. So, after discussions with the family, prosecutors adjusted their approach.
A man accused of killing his ex-girlfriend on Facebook Live changes his plea to guilty today. NBC6's Delano Henry joins us now live from the Caddo Parish Courthouse with more. Delano?
That's right, Jackie. Everybody in the courtroom was in tears today as Jonathan Robinson apologized to the mother of the victim, Rannita Williams.
Live, I'm off the phone. No.
This was Rannita Williams on Facebook Live just moments before her Facebook friends witnessed her life being taken. It happened back in April of 2018.
I don't have to worry about it no more. My baby can rest. It's just over with and I'm glad.
And her mother, Anita, is relieved the man accused of killing her daughter is pleading guilty.
This has been the longest months of my life.
37-year-old Jonathan Robinson is Williams' ex-boyfriend. He initially entered a plea of not guilty to first-degree murder and several counts of attempted first-degree murder of police officers. According to the district attorney, 2 of them even came close to dying.
The officer who actually was shot and the first officer who drove up to the scene of the crime, who Thankfully, she stopped short because if she had driven all the way up to the house, she would have been killed.
The district attorney tells NBC6 News before talking with Rannita's mother, he did seek the death penalty.
But based on my conversations with her, I was willing to back off if he pled.
So at the end of the day, the decision that was made was my decision. We feel a lot better. It hurts me. It hurts me so bad. By killing Jonathan, it's not going to bring Rannita back. None whatsoever. So.
Robinson also pled guilty to all of the other charges, and he faces life in prison without parole. Back to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Delano.
By early 2019, a plea deal had been arranged. On January 24, 2019, Jonathan Robinson stood in court and entered a guilty plea. In exchange for avoiding the death penalty, he accepted the maximum penalty short of execution: life in prison at hard labor without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 100 years for the attempted murder charges linked to the officers. The sentence ensured that Robinson would never walk free again. In court, he offered only a brief, mumbled apology to Rannita's family. There were no long statements, no elaborate explanations, just a few words that carried little weight compared to the gravity of what had been lost. For Reanita and the rest of the family, the sentence at least meant the legal chapter was closed. Justice, in the eyes of the law, had been served, and Robinson would spend the rest of his life behind bars. However, the trial process also highlighted something deeper. It showed how years of lenient outcomes and dropped charges had allowed Robinson to remain free long enough to carry out the attack. On April 21, 2018, exactly 2 weeks after her ominous Facebook post, Rannita was laid to rest. Hundreds of people crowded into the New Elizabeth Missionary Baptist Church in Shreveport. Family, friends, neighbors, clients, and even strangers who had only known her online came together to say goodbye. The service became more than a funeral. It became a statement of grief for a city shaken by what had been broadcast in real time across social media. Her death forced conversations about the warning signs of DV and the failures of the system that had allowed Jonathan Robinson to walk free despite years of violent incidents. Advocates pointed out how many times victims had declined to press charges and how often those cases were dismissed, leaving abusers unchecked. And in Rannita's case, ignoring the red flags had ended with tragedy played out on the world's largest stage. But her life was more than the crime that took it. She was remembered as a bold woman who spoke her mind, a gifted decorator and stylist, and above all, a devoted mother whose children adored her. Those who loved her refused to let her be defined only by the live stream of her final moments. Instead, they spoke about her laughter, her strength, and her determination to live fully in spite of the chaos around her. Still, one memory haunted everyone who had seen it. On April 7, just days before her death, Rannita had typed a Facebook status that read, "At my funeral, ID will be checked." And 2 weeks later, that funeral came. So, what do you think about this case? Do you believe anything could have been done to prevent tragedies like this? We'd really like to hear your thoughts in the comments section, and we do read every single one of them. And if you found this video meaningful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more true crime stories told with depth and respect. Stay safe, take care of each other, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.